journey of the Israelites and the meaning of freedom. Welcome to today's broadcast, where we'll dive into the timeless story of the Israelites' journey from slavery in Egypt to the Promised Land and explore the true meaning of freedom. This story, recorded in the Bible, is more than just an ancient tale of liberation. It holds deep significance for our modern lives. It's not just about physical freedom, but about breaking free from the chains that bind us mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. For over 400 years, the Israelites were oppressed, not only in their bodies, but also in their minds. God used their time in the wilderness as a place of transformation, preparing them for the freedom He had promised. And just like them, we all face our own wilderness experiences, moments of struggle, doubt, or limitation. It is in these moments that God shapes us, preparing us for something greater. The Israelites, slavery of the mind and desire. Let's reflect on how the Israelites became slaves in the first place. Genesis 47 tells us that they went to Egypt during a time of severe famine. God used Joseph to save not only Egypt, but also his family, the Israelites, by bringing them to Egypt to survive the famine. However, after the famine ended, they stayed. Genesis 47:27, and what started as a place of refuge eventually turned into bondage. A new Pharaoh, who did not know Joseph, enslaved the Israelites. Exodus 1:8-11, turning their once temporary sanctuary into a prison. This enslavement wasn't just physical, it was mental and emotional. The Israelites grew accustomed to Egypt's security, even though it ultimately enslaved them. How often does this happen in our lives? We stay in places, relationships, or habits that once served a purpose, but now enslave us. Proverbs 5:22 tells us, "The evil deeds of the wicked ensnare them. The cords of their sins hold them fast." In the same way, we see this in our daily lives when contentment or comfort leads to dependency and ultimately captivity. Whether it's a job, a habit, or a mindset, we find ourselves trapped, unable to move forward. Modern slavery, bad habits and desires. This pattern repeats itself in our daily lives. We may find ourselves in situations we know aren't good for us, but we stay because we're tied to the fleeting comfort they provide. Over time, this contentment can become mental slavery. Whether it's an addiction to material things, bad habits, or unhealthy relationships, it becomes a cycle that's hard to break. Like the Israelites, the only way to free ourselves from this slavery of the mind is through transformation. Romans 12:2 encourages us, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Transformation often happens during our own wilderness experiences. When we strip away the things that enslave us, those bad habits, desires, and comforts, we allow God to mold us into something new. The wilderness as a place of renewal. After God delivered the Israelites from slavery, He didn't immediately bring them to the Promised Land. Instead, He led them into the wilderness, a place of testing and transformation. Exodus 13, verse 17-18 tells us that God deliberately led them the long way around through the wilderness, so they would not turn back to Egypt at the first sign of conflict. The wilderness became a place where God worked to change their slave mentality, teaching them to rely on Him rather than the comforts and security of Egypt. The wilderness, whether it's a career setback, a personal challenge, or an emotional struggle, is where we lose ourselves to discover the true strength and resilience God has placed within us. It's in this uncomfortable space that we stop relying on what once enslaved us and start relying on God. When we embrace the lessons of the wilderness, we realize that our limitations are not a sign of weakness, but an opportunity for growth. As we let go of the things that once enslaved us, we uncover the creativity, power, and potential God has given us to rise above those limitations. Just as the Israelites had to let go of their slave mentality before entering the Promised Land, Numbers 14, verse 3-4, we too must release our attachment to the things that hold us back, whether it's fear, bad habits, or even comfort. Only then can we step into the freedom that God has promised. Modern wilderness. Career challenges. Let's take a closer look at a specific example of a modern wilderness, career challenges. Whether you're facing job loss, feeling stuck, or experiencing rejection after rejection, these moments can feel like a desert. But like the Israelites, these moments are often where God does His greatest work in us. Romans 5, verse 3-4 reminds us, Suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Each setback is an opportunity for growth and renewal. Every rejection, every challenge can be a chance for God to build our character and prepare us for something greater. Trusting in God's purpose and timing. One of the hardest things to do in the wilderness is trust God's timing. In a world that pushes us to seek instant results, it's difficult to be patient. But Ecclesiastes 3:1 teaches us, "There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens." Just as the Israelites had to trust God during their 40 years in the wilderness, Deuteronomy 8:2-4, we too must trust in God's timing and purpose, even when we don't understand why we're facing certain struggles. It's often in these moments that God is preparing us for something bigger than we could ever imagine. Examples of overcoming limitations. Consider Nick Vujicic, a man born without arms or legs. Despite his physical limitations, Nick didn't let that define him. Through faith and perseverance, he transformed his life and became a global speaker, inspiring millions. His wilderness wasn't a physical desert, but the limitations of his body. Yet, with God's guidance, Nick emerged to live a life of freedom and impact others through his story. Another example is J.K. Rowling, who faced poverty and repeated rejection while trying to publish her now famous Harry Potter series. Like the Israelites wandering in the wilderness, Rowling had to trust in the process during her own wilderness of rejection and hardship. It was in that difficult season that she developed the resilience and creativity that eventually led her to worldwide success. Practical steps for breaking free. So, how do we break free from modern-day slaveries and trust in God during our wilderness moments? Here are some practical steps. 1. Limit the distractions. Identify and remove the things that are keeping you enslaved. It might be as simple as taking a break from social media, rethinking your daily habits, or stepping away from toxic relationships. By creating space, you allow God to work more fully in your life. 2. Seek God's guidance through prayer. In times of uncertainty, lean into God. James 1:5 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, and it will be given to you." Bring your questions, struggles, and concerns to Him in prayer, and trust that He will lead you through the wilderness. 3. Surround yourself with positive influences. As Proverbs 27:17 reminds us, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." Surround yourself with people who inspire, encourage, and challenge you to grow. 4. Embrace the wilderness. The wilderness isn't a punishment, it's a place of renewal. Instead of resisting it, ask what God might be teaching you through this season. What are you being asked to let go of? And what strength might you discover in the process? Conclusion: the journey to freedom. The Israelites' journey teaches us that true freedom isn't just about escaping physical chains, but breaking free from the things that enslave our minds, hearts, and spirits. Whatever wilderness you may be facing right now, whether it's career struggles, emotional battles, or unhealthy habits, know that God is with you, shaping you, and preparing you for the freedom He has promised. Like the Israelites, we must let go of our chains, whether they're bad habits, fear, or comfort, and trust that God is leading us to something greater. With His help, we can break free from the limitations that hold us back and step into the new life He has designed for us. If today's message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. What areas of your life are keeping you in bondage? What wilderness are you walking through right now? Pray and ask God to reveal the steps you need to take to break free from what's holding you back. If you're struggling or need prayer, drop a comment below or reach out. I would love to support you and walk with you on this journey. You don't have to face the wilderness alone. Thank you for joining me today. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss our next broadcast. And if someone you know is going through their own wilderness, share this message with them. They may need this encouragement today. Until next time, remember that God is with you every step of the way.
We wandered through the desert searching for the light, bound by chains unseen in the darkness of the night. Years of silence, years of pain weighed heavy on our soul. But in the wilderness we found we're not alone. Soft, rising vocals out of Egypt, out of fear, into freedom drawing near. Break the chains, release the mind, the promised land we will find. Uplifting, let go of the chains, let go of the past. In the wilderness we're free at last. With every step the path is clear. Freedom calls, the time is here. Safety of our comfort, we were prisoners of our mind, chasing fleeting pleasures, but never what's divine. The wilderness, a mirror to the truth we couldn't see. That real freedom lies in breaking what enslaves internally. Building intensity, out of Egypt, out of fear, into freedom drawing near. Break the chains, release the mind, the promised land we will find. Uplifting, let go of the chains, let go of the past. In the wilderness we're free at last. With every step the path is clear. Freedom calls, the time is here. Let go of the chains, let go of the past. In the wilderness we're free at last. With every step the path is clear. Freedom calls, the time is here. Let go of the chains, let go of the past. In the wilderness we're free at last. With every step the path is clear. Freedom calls, the time is here. When the world closes in and all hope seems lost, remember, freedom comes with a cost. But in the fire we are made new. Through the wilderness we are walking to truth. We go of the chains, let go of the past. In the wilderness we're free at last. With every step the path is clear. Freedom calls, the time is here.